Hi, my name is Apura, and I'm not sensitive, I'm just vibing. I hope everyone's having a good week. It recently started snowing here, so I'm settling into a wintry vibe. This time of year is always so weird to me because I start thinking that if my parents made slightly different decisions, I would be slightly warmer and experience my favorite type of rain a lot more often. I wonder if I would still experience seasonal depression like I do up here, or if I would love the rain as much as I do now. Most of my life has been spent far above the equator, and sometimes I can feel my soul yearning for the weather my ancestors thrived in. I wonder if they're in their ancestral plane watching me shiver in 50-degree weather with tears in their eyes. I might be a bit dramatic though. They're probably laughing it up out there and hoping that I'll learn how to cope someday. There is also the possibility that I would hate the weather I would have experienced growing up in Kenya. I might be an immigrant to the Americas, but I am a settled immigrant, so it has me questioning what an immigrant is and when one is no longer considered an immigrant. Today, I'm not sensitive, I'm just an immigrant. So first things first, I am an immigrant from the moment I left my birth country and settled into the US. Time doesn't really impact whether you're an immigrant or not. The only thing that matters is where you were born. So if I were to have kids in the US, they wouldn't be considered immigrants unless they were to move to another country. Other terms used for immigrants are foreign-born, international migrants, and migrants. The other part of being an immigrant is the intention to permanently settle in a country you have immigrated to. But I don't think regular people really care about that part. There are tiers to immigration, as there usually are for most things in this life. A naturalized citizen would be someone like me. I got that status because my parents who adopted me are citizens. People can also be naturalized with time. I believe in the United States it's 3 to 5 years, but some countries have a lot longer waiting times. There are permanent residents who acquire that status through family relations, jobs, or other legal statuses. In the US, they are most recognized as green card holders. They can gain naturalization, and most times they have to have permanent residence before they are naturalized. After that, we have asylum seekers or refugees. These people are forced to seek refuge from their home government or situations that the government isn't able to help them with. Think China, Venezuela, El Salvador, Honduras. People who have been persecuted or have a fear of being persecuted based on race, ethnicity, religion, or political belief. This tier of people can pursue permanent residence, especially in the first place they claim asylum. After that, we have what some people call twilight status. I actually have never heard of twilight status until today, and I find it very interesting. What I've always known it as, and what people of this status are called in the US, are DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, and TPS, Temporary Protected Status. They should be protected from deportation because they have been in said country for a specific amount of time and have no more than a minimal criminal record. Our final status are unauthorized immigrants, which are people who entered the country illegally or overstayed their visas. A lot of the people in the US call these people illegals, which makes me uncomfortable because at the end of the day, we are all human and our existence anywhere on this planet should not be considered illegal, especially since this continent was so horribly stolen away from the indigenous populations that continue to live here. Unauthorized immigrants don't have rights in the US except for school and emergency medical services. Yet, they benefit the country a lot more than they are given credit for. Now, since we've gone through all of the statuses, I think it is time to vibe with the times. So today, on Vibe with the Times, I want to talk about a term connected to immigration, and that term is expat or expatriate. This term is for people who are immigrants, but they're more connected to their home country. People who work, study, or retire to a different country are usually considered expats. Now, you may be asking what the real difference between an expat and an immigrant is, and the simple answer is that they are temporary immigrants. For the most part, they don't plan on permanently moving away from their native country. The more complicated answer is rooted in class. Because the term is not a legal term, practically anybody can consider themselves expatriates, but those who do usually come from the global north. When we talk about immigrants, we very quickly think of the stereotypes. People who are from poor countries, looking for opportunities in rich countries, people from the global south to the global north. The thing is, immigration happens the other way around and even within the hemispheres themselves. This is when we start thinking about racism, class, and privilege. People from the global north have more privilege and opportunity to immigrate anywhere between the global north and south because power and money is consolidated in the global north. Since immigrants have become the political scapegoat for all of the social and economic issues in the Western world, people with the privilege and opportunity to migrate more freely in the global north and south have started using a new term to differentiate themselves from the scapegoats. And that term is an expat. What's kind of funny about it is that this term was first used in the 14th century in France to describe people who have been kicked out of their own country. It then became more popularly used as its modern meaning around the 1960s. A British poet, D.J. Enright, wrote about the experiences of Brits sent to colonies by their employers for business purposes. So, we've talked about the labels, the tiers, the privileged language of expats, but it all leads back to the most basic question. Why? Why do people leave the place they were born, the culture they know, their families, and risk everything to start over somewhere new? The simple, humane answer is that people are just looking for a better, safer life. But the complicated, systematic answer is because they often have to. A huge reason is because countries started enforcing borders. For most of human history, people moved. They followed herds, they found new land, they traded, they explored. The idea that you needed a passport and a visa to cross an imaginary line is a relatively modern invention, tied directly to the creation of the nation-state. Borders aren't natural, they're political tools, and they're tools that are used to control who gets access to safety and opportunity, especially in the West. And when we think about it, where is all the opportunity concentrated? In the global north. And it's not by accident. It's directly because the global south is exploited for all of its resources. For centuries, colonial powers, and now global corporations have extracted wealth, minerals, crops, labor, and more from countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. This system is designed to keep the wealth flowing north, leaving behind political instability, poverty, and environmental damage. So when a person from Honduras risks the journey to the US, they aren't just seeking a better life in a vague sense. They are literally fleeing the direct consequences of a global economic system that the US and others in the global north benefit from. We take their resources, destabilize their economies, and then call them illegal when they follow the wealth that we took from them. I honestly see it as a global reckoning because people aren't just moving to something. They are often moving away from something that we helped create. There are a lot of reasons why even I first immigrated. When I first moved to the US, my parents and their kids had been immigrants in Kenya for almost a decade. My little brother and I were finally fully adopted, and because they wanted better education and job opportunities for all of us, they decided to move us back and make us Americans. Then, when I first went to college, I was seeking cheaper education and more traveling experience. And now, it's because I want to be closer to my partner and build towards stability for wherever I happen to live in the future. I do sometimes think about how I'll always sort of be an immigrant, even if I were to move back to Kenya. I don't speak Swahili or my tribal language. I've been too far separated from the culture there that even if I were to spend years trying to regain that identity, I honestly don't think it would be quite right. I like the idea of calling myself a global citizen, but that feels too privileged knowing the history of the West taking over the world. And as someone who lives in the West and is naturalized in the West, I have easier access to the world than someone who's just like me who has spent their whole life in the global South. For now, I'm satisfied with calling myself a Washingtonian. Because whether I'm a migrant or born there, it will always be the place I grew up, and a place that I'm glad to call home. Thank you for listening to me today. This one's a little short and sweet, but I hope it was helpful. As always, sources are in the description, and remember, we're not sensitive, we're just vibing.